We have come to the final day of Sukkot, the seventh day, which is known as Hoshana Rabbah, that famous Yom Hadin. After we've had 21 days from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we conclude with the final notes that are being thrown up to Shemayim, which is known as the Pitka of Hoshana Rabbah. That's why many people stay up all night. We take the Aravot, as we know, and we walk around the Bima, as we are familiar with our Lulav and Esrog. I want to connect this idea, to current events, but to first of all understand a little bit of the meaning behind what is going on. First of all, a basic idea that we have to know is the number 7 is a prime number. It's not a very useful number in mathematics, but in Judaism, wow, it's a big one. It's the number that takes 6, because we live in a world of 6 kivunim, 6 directions, which of course including up, down, right, left, front, and back, as we do with the lulav, is the number 6. And number 7, which I said is a prime number, it's not divisible by anything. That is the number that kind of wraps it all together. It takes all that 6 in Olam Hazeh and it makes it spiritual. It takes it and it brings it to a higher level. That's why in the Midbar we had 7 ananim, 7 clouds of glory, 6 for the directions, and 1 to take us to a spiritual world in the higher realms. That's why, of course, we know Shabbat is 7 days, because it is the most spiritual day that we have it together. It takes all the days of the week, Sheshet Yamim Ta'avod, and the Shvi, of course, and the 7th day after working is the day of rest. It becomes that spiritual day. We always have this number 7 all over the place. The 7 days of Sukkot, the 7 days of Pesach, Sheva Brachot after a wedding, we celebrate 7 days, and even Avelut, when one Lo Aleinu is sitting as a mourner, he does it for 7 days in order to show spirituality into a very mundane activity. This is something that we do always. Not only that, the Yetzer Hara has 7 names. Gehenna has 7 names. The Gemara in Eruvin Yud Chet, the Gemara in Sukkah towards the end, Nun Bet. And of course, most importantly, is that there are 7 Sfirot. The building blocks of the world are made up of, 10, 3 don't count, the 7 bottom ones that contain in this world, known as the 7 bottom Sfirot, are here as the number 7, because in this world we have the number 7 to take us up to a different level. 10 is in the higher worlds already. 7 is in this world to make it a spiritual world. That's why we have 7 Reki'im, which are firmaments, and 7 Yevashot. As Chazal tell us, there are 7 there are 7 masses of ground that we have around us. Anyways, this idea of 7 is very fundamental, and it is extremely connected, obviously, as you can understand, to our special day here that is known as Hoshana Rabbah. First of all, it's on the 7th day. What a coincidence! It's the 7th day, the final day of Sukkot. Hoshana Rabbah has reached the climax, the epics, and has reached the epitome of where we've been headed for on all of Sukkot. How many times do we go around the Bima? We go 7 times around the Bima. Yes, every day we did 1 time, but here on Hoshana Rabbah we do a special 7 times, because we have gone to a different level. What are we carrying when we walk around the Bima? We carry our Lulav and Etrog. How many species? No, not 4. I know what you're thinking. It's 7, believe it or not, because we have 3 Adasim, 2 Aravot, 1 Lulav, and 1 Etrog. Go ahead, use your fingers. That one you can get on your finger still. We come out with 7 species that we're going around on the Bima. And of course, we have the 7 Ushpizim. During this time, it's the 7 Ushpizim, which occurs during the time of Hoshana Rabbah. And on Hoshana Rabbah, we do every day. We are makriv korbanot. We give over many sacrifices of the cows. We start with 13, 12, 11, 10. On Hoshana Rabbah, we come out with 7. That's right, 7 cows that are nikrav on Hoshana Rabbah. So Hoshana Rabbah is playing this important role of the number 7, the one of absolute serenity, the one of bliss, the one that is living in this world, but in absolute completion. The world of Shmini Atzeret, the next day, Simchat Torah, that's already above Teva. That's already above, because that's number 8. But I'm talking about in this world, to having an absolute completion, similar to what we are familiar with Shabbat. Now listen to this, and this is the climax here of what we're trying to get at, and that is Hoshana Rabbah. Of course, every day of Sukkot has one of the ushpizim, one of those special guests that we invite inside the Sukkah. Baruch Hashem, we have 7 ushpizim as we are familiar with. We start with Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, which of course makes sense. We move on to Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and then the finale, the grand finale is David HaMelech. That's right, David HaMelech. David HaMelech, the special man who is number 7 on the ushpizim list. He is what we refer to as the David, who is the eventual harbinger of Mashiach, as we are familiar with. Now, David HaMelech is very apropos to this midah of Hoshana Rabbah, as I will speak out, because David HaMelech represents Malchut. From all the 7 Sfirot, there are 7 Sfirot, which I don't want to get into too much detail, but it's Chesed, Gvur, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. The bottom one is Malchut. Malchut is the receptacle, it's the kli that receives all the shefa, what we call all the influence. Everything that comes down from Shamayim comes through the number 7, which is Malchut. Malchut is the recipient of everything. He's the one who's able to receive, and that is David HaMelech, and that's why it's very apropos. And you know, the Arizal says when you write the name Yud Kei Vav Kei as Sofer, when he's writing the name of Hashem, Yud and then a Hey, and then afterwards a Vav and a Hey, then each letter, you should know, is parallel to the Sfirot, which is not for now the building blocks of the world is Sfirot, but the last Hey, the Hey at the very end, is Kereged Malchut. It is the last Sfira. That Hey at the very end is the last Sfira, and he says you have to have in mind when you make a Hey of the outside level is a Dalid, and inside the little chipchik inside the Hey is a little Vav. What's that? That's Dalid, Vav, Dalid, David. Meaning in the Hey, in the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is a Dalid, a Vav, and another Dalid. What an incredible name! You're probably wondering why I'm advertising it. If you look down underneath this film over here, you'll see it says Rabbi Genish. So maybe I have a little bit of bias in this name David. But Al Kopanim, this idea of David is the idea of Malchut. He's the one who brings all the Shefa down into this world. He's the one who's here to bring down everything into this world, and he is the epitome of the number 7 also. You want to know why? I'll tell you why. Guess how long David HaMelech lived? You'll never believe it. 70 years. That's right. 7 times 10. He lived 70 years. His ushpizim is on the 7th day of Sukkot. Like we said, he appears on the 7th day of Sukkot, Hoshana Rabbah. Not only that, he died on Shabbat, the 7th day of the week, and he died on, you know which day? On Shavuot. David passed away on Shavuot. Shavuot is after 7 times 7 of Sfirot HaOmer. When we count the Sfirot HaOmer, 7 times 7 comes Shavuot, and that's when David HaMelech was Nifter. So he's also connected to this incredible power that we know as Olam Hazeh, because he was involved in this world, but in a very spiritual way. He took this world to a different notch. He raised it to a different level. That was the power of David HaMelech, and that's why he's the one who's going to bring Mashiach. He's the one who is able to humble himself even in distress, even in difficult times. Daloti v'li Yoshia, Daloti from a Dalid. He was the one who brings it from the bottom to the top, and that's the greatness of David HaMelech. Now let me explain, and this is the last part over here of this year, and this is incredible. Now, Sukkot, the epitome of all of Sukkot, has to do with what? With the Geula, the idea of Gog u'Magog, the big battle that will occur in the end of days. As we have read already in the Haftarah of Sukkot on the first day and also on Shabbat, we read about Gog u'Magog, because Sukkot is the time, as is brought down in the Tur in Siman Tavtzari, when Gog u'Magog will occur. That is a time when it will happening. All the fights and the milchama that happens. What happens during Gog Magog? So it says the Psukim in Yecheskel, Vayaba Yomahu b'yom bo Gog al Admat Yisrael. When Gog comes to Admat Yisrael, he will make a milchama. Ta'aleh chamati be'api. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu will be a little bit upset with us, but he'll still do nisim. And it says, and there will be a big ra'ash gadol al Admat Kodesh. On Eretz Yisrael, there will be a Rash Gadol, a big earthquake. There will be a tremendous amount of carnage, of killing, of death. It will be horrible. It will be sights that are undescribable. Something, unfortunately, that we saw 2 years ago in Tav Shin Pei Dalid, during this time period of Sukkot with Simchat Torah, as we are familiar with, what's otherwise known in English as October 7th. And everybody in the world will hear about this. And there will be different epitomes of people, different types of people from both sides. Listen to this. All the walls of the land will fall. What does it mean, all the walls of the land? All the gates surrounding Gaza will be broken. They will be able to go through the walls. All the walls will fall, and the enemy will go into Eretz Yisrael, something that unfortunately we were witness to 2 years ago. That is the milchama that will happen with Gog Magog. But as the psukim continue there in Yecheskel Lamed Chet, Perik Lamed Chet, it speaks out the idea that Hashem will put us together, He'll be Mekabetz Otanu together, and even other nations will, yes, be against Israel also. They will come against Israel, and this person will go ahead and gather all his people against Eretz Yisrael, against all the people of Israel that are sitting inside of it. Now, what does that mean? This Rasha Gomer, his name is Yechi Sinwar. He is the person that was going to do the plan of gathering everybody together, meaning Hezbollah, the Houthim, Syria, and the Iranian, and on the plan was it should be all done in one day to completely annihilate us. Rachmana litzlan, if his plan came through, if they listened, if they were attentive to his request, then we can't even imagine what would have happened. Gog Magog would have been a complete description of absolute annihilation. There was no way. We were in such a bilbul, we were in such a commotion at that time, we would have never been able to succeed in that war. But Hashem did a credibleness, as it says in those continuing the psukim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do nisim v'niflot b'kol haaretz, in order that Hashem shetachtam galu Yisrael v'savlu ra'ot, even though we had a lot of sevel, Hashem yinkom, Hashem will get revenge, and He will protect us, and His name will be glorified amongst everybody. What happened? Yes, Hezbollah attacked, but they gave us a few days to recuperate. Yes, the Houthim in the south also attacked, but they gave us a few months to recuperate. Yes, the Syrians wanted to attack, but they didn't get a chance because they were too busy with their own. Yes, the Iranians were attacked, but they were too scared to do it until they eventually did it. But Baruch Hashem, by then we were able to hold cup, to be able to hold up. An absolute miracle that this was the way things worked out. And Baruch Hashem, that was 2 Sukkot again. Last Sukkot, a year ago, in Tav Shin Pei Hey, this Yechi Sinwar was annihilated, wiped out on Sukkot also. It was also during Sukkot, the same time period of Gog Magog, which describes this war, which eventually he will be killed, this whatever he is, this King Rasha that is trying to get everyone together against Israel will eventually be annihilated. And Baruch Hashem, that is what we are witness to at this point of time. Now, of course, we can't conclude with Tav Shin Pei Vav. Here we are 2 years later, ready to have, Baruch Hashem, our hostages released. There's going to be some type of peace that will go on, which over here we are a little wary about that because we're still waiting to see what's going to happen to these Rishayim. Are they still going to stay there? We're releasing a bunch of good-for-nothing Rishayim from the jail cells. But what do the Psukim say? But what do the Psukim say about that? So you open a Nehemiah in Perek Chet, which discusses the idea of Sukkot after they celebrated Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, It says, and it says over there, the Yasu Sukkot ish al gago b'chatzotayim b'chatzot Beit Elokim u'berchov Shar Hamayim u'berchov Shar Ephraim, that everyone celebrated Sukkot. And you know what it says right at the end of Perek Chet, Vayesu kol kahal eshavim min hashevi, all those that have returned from bondage, all those that have returned from the land, from being captured, they will all go sit in the Sukkot. Vayeshvu b'Sukkot ki lo asu miyamei Yeshua ben Nun. And it will be a happy and pleasant time, almost like the time of Yeshua ben Nun. And it wasn't done so with such fervor, with such exasperation as it was since the time of Yeshua ben Nun. Ad yom hahu v'tehi simcha gdoila me'od, says the pasuk. What is simcha gdoila? That it will be a tremendous simcha. It will be a tremendous simcha. And it says over there, the Torah Elokim, that people will listen and they'll connect to the Torah. So here we have it, yes, 3 years with 3 kind of nevuot that we have about Gog and Magog that happened 2 years ago. And last year when we actually killed the guy who started the whole event. And then of course we have this year with the coming together of the Shvuyim coming to celebrate Sukkot. And yes, it is a time of happiness, but I have to conclude with a very important parting remark about this whole thing. And that is, what is Gog? The meaning of the word Gog is Gag. This Rav Hirsch says this in the psukim that referred to over there by Sukkot and Bamidbar and Perek Chavtet. Gog is from Lashon Gag, a roof. The idea behind the Gog atmosphere that we are surrounded in, the idea of Gog and the meaning behind it is that we are safe, secure, impenetrable. Nothing can beat us. We are very powerful and we are strong. We have a strong roof on top of us. That is why dafka on purpose. Why? What's the connection between Gog and Magog and Sukkot? Because dafka in that time period, we have to do the antithesis of Gog. The meaning of Gog and the atmosphere and the breath that we breathe inside of the air that we are surrounded by is the idea that we are impenetrable, we are powerful, we are strong, we are safe, and nothing can beat us. Comes the Chag of Sukkot and says, get out of your house, go into some little shack without any type of security at all, and over there you will be completely protected by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Vilna Gaon says, Gog and Magog will take place during Sukkot, and you better be in the Sukkah. That's your safe room. Don't go anywhere else, because that's the safest place. Why? Because the Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory, are parallel to the Sukkot. And of course, what do the clouds of glory in the desert do? They protected us from scorpions and snakes and bandits. They protected us from the Mitzrim when they were shooting at us their ballistic missiles and they were aiming at us. They were the ones that were protecting us all the time. That's the clouds of glory. The Sukkot are there to protect us. There's nothing better than the power of the Sukkah to be our protective device. Gog is the idea of Magog, giving out security. I'm in charge, what we call Kochav Yotzim Yadi. And we are coming to a different scenario of going out and saying, I completely humble myself to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm not interested in any death, destruction, power, as they are coming to display by the Arab side, just absolute fierce brutality, without any type of hindrances to women and children, nothing to do with anything. Just kill and kill, and blood and no difference. We walk out into the sukkah to show we humble ourselves in front of Hashem, and we know we are protected there. We know we're in a safe environment. That's why Sukkot and Gog and Magog come together. And how did we finish? Who's the Mashiach coming from? David HaMelech. Hoshana Rabbah has to do with David HaMelech. Why David HaMelech? Because David HaMelech is Dalid. Dalid is Dal, the one who is humble, the one who humbled himself. That's what the Gemara says. Gimel is Gimel, Dalim is Dal. David HaMelech is the epitome of Dal, the one who humbled himself. Daloti v'li Hoshia. David HaMelech humbles himself before Hashem, and he says, I know you will protect me. I know himself. He's a person who knew how to do wars. He beat a lot of countries. He was very powerful. But he did it only in the name of Hashem, understanding that we are completely under the auspices of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What do we say? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Now that Dalit really should be stretched out. We don't know how to do it properly. Teimanim do But al pi halacha, that dalet is very big, and it's meant to be stretched out long. Why do we end Shema Yisrael with a long dalet? Because the idea, the yesod, the foundation of Shema Yisrael is a humbling. It's dalut. It's a humbling before our great God in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And with that, li yoshia, that we have a success. This we learned from our great David HaMelech, the man who knew how to be humble, the man who wasn't supposed to be alive. Those 70 years he received from Adam HaRishon, from the first man who was supposed to have 1,000 years, he turned to 930 years, because he gave 70 years to David HaMelech, who will be the correction for Adam HaRishon. David HaMelech did tshuva instead of Adam HaRishon, and that's why Adam is Lashon Aleph, Daled, Mem. Aleph is Adam, Daled is David, and Mem is Mashiach, because that stretch of time stretches over these 6,000 years, which eventually will lead to the 7,000th year, the Elef HaShvi, the final redemption will be when we get to that Elef HaShvi'i, to the 7,000th of year. Because as we said, 7 is the status of perfection. That's David HaMelech, that's Gog Magog, that has to do with Sukkot, and that has to do with this power of humbling ourselves before Hashem. So if we've learned one lesson from these past 2 years, let it be this, that we've realized that Gog is not the one in charge, that we've been surrounded and hit left and center by this power that we call Gag, the roof that thinks that it is all about power and might and strength and survival of the fittest, as we have seen and we've unfortunately been hit by left and right. But we have come to the conclusion and understanding that Ein Od Milvadoy. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. We are humble before you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We know that there is no way out over here, because even with this deal, and I don't want to sound pessimistic, because of course we're very happy our Shvuyim are coming, our hostages are coming back. It's a time of celebration and happiness. But in the end of the day,